bit over 4 years ago, I was running a B2B sales agency. I had 5 people in the team, we had 1 client, and we were pretty much closing and sourcing deals for them on commission basis. And we were doing absolutely fantastic. We were really great. The performance was really high. Everything was super smooth. But then one day, this company approaches us, and they are a supplement company. And they say, hey dude, I heard that you guys are really great. I know you can sell. Could you sell these supplements for me? And we were like, interesting. Have never really thought about this industry, but let's look into it. So we do a bit of research. We look into their numbers. We look at their profit margins. We look at all of these things going on in their company. And we see that, damn, these guys are fucking selling a lot of supplements with really poor sales practices, and the profit margins are crazy. So instead of being a smart person, smart agency owner, and taking this client on, we decide, hey, with 2 of my co-founders, hey, let's just start our own supplement company. Let's just do it. Can't be that hard. So we find a manufacturing company to manufacture the supplements in Finland for us, really actually high quality supplements. I hire 15 sales guys from my own network. We rent out this super cool, sick office. We onboard them, we figure out the systems, we give them the laptops, boom, 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 boom. We're ready to sell, yeah? So it was a few weeks. We were ready to start selling these deals. We got the courier company to ship the things out, etc. And we started selling. And 2-3 weeks go by, and we were doing 3,000-4,000 euros a day. Oh, damn. This stuff is crazy. This stuff is working really well. And because these were consumers buying supplement products, this could actually build up some valuation. This company could be worth selling at some point. So after a month or 2, we ask for this advisor to come in, and we tell him, hey, could you please look at this company? Do you think this company has any value? Could we actually sell it? And he goes, yeah, if you continue with this growth trajectory in a few months, it's going to be worth 1.2 million. And I'm like, damn, I own 40% of the company. I'm like, damn, that's pretty good. That's pretty fire. And in my head, I was like, okay, this is how I'm going to fucking make my first million. This is going to be my $1 million business. So I'm excited as hell. So we keep ramping up the sales up, etc. We knew how to sell really well. I was running the sales team. I was in charge of that operation. And a few months later, we burned and crashed the whole company down. And the reason why we burned and crashed the whole company down wasn't because we weren't able to get customers, or it wasn't because of our marketing skills, or it wasn't even because our product was super bad. The reason was because we had no back-end systems or operations to run anything. Pretty much what we were doing is we were bringing on crazy amount of people, new customers, and then these customers would just fucking get lost into the abyss. We would send them the package, we didn't know who to invoice, who had paid the invoice already, someone had a refund, so we wanted to we didn't know how to get it back. It's everything was a huge mess. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse because the amount of people we were closing. So in the end, we just fucking refunded anyone, didn't send any invoices out, gave everyone free products, and fucking shut the company down because it was so impossible to run. It just became a fucking big mess. So what I learned from this experience is that, hey, this could have been my first $1 million 4 years ago, or €1 million, but it wasn't because we didn't have good systems. And because of that, we're going to be talking about systems and operations for your agency today. Because, yeah, having great systems could be the difference between you making $1 million and you getting left. You ended up being in debt and no company, because that's what happened to me. That's another story, but I had to take a personal debt loan to fucking pay our sales guys. Terrible. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about how to build systems. I have been in the last 6-7 years building a lot of agencies, working a lot of businesses. We've worked with over 500 agencies the past 3 years, 2.5 years. Scaled a lot of them to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 120,000. We've built our own agency to over 100,000. And yeah, it's been doing a lot of systems and operations and hiring and training and managing a team. And I've also spent a lot of money on this. Last year we brought on an amazing consultant, paid him 35K, boom, teach us this stuff, show us how to fix this. We don't want to make the same mistake again, and that's what we did. So in this video, you're gonna get my system for creating systems in your agency. So you don't have to work in the business, and you can work on the business, and you can actually scale predictably and not destroy your company like I did, So it's pretty great stuff. So if you run an agency, this is not going to be super relevant for you if you're at $0 a month, or if you're just have one client. But if you're doing 10, 15, 20, 30, 50,000 a month, then this is going to be highly, highly valuable for you. So yeah, so to hop into this presentation, I only have 4 slides, so I wouldn't really call it a presentation, but just to make sure I keep on track. How to build system for your agency. And pretty much before we go into it, we first have to understand what actually is a system. So there's a lot of these words that people like to throw around on YouTube, saying systems and SOPs and automations and this and that, you know? Like, I think it's super clear, or it's super important that we get really clear on what is a system first. So system is pretty much a process of doing something in your business. So for example, here is an example of a system on how to onboard a client. A client agrees on partnership and terms. We schedule the onboarding call. The contract gets sent to the client. Both parties sign the contract. Invoice is sent to the client. Client pays the invoice. Onboarding call. Blah 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 blah. And here we can also outline who is responsible for it, but that doesn't really matter. Like, this is pretty much a system. This is a process. Every single time when a client comes into the agency, this is what happens. It's predictable. And then inside these systems, we might have SOPs, aka standard operating procedures, aka just standardized ways to do things. So for example, if every single time when we do an onboarding calls, we have to just like freestyle it, it's gonna be really bad. So we can have a system or an SOP for hosting an onboarding call, you know? And this is pretty much what it can look like. Standard operating procedure, SOP, hosting a 60-minute onboarding call. And then on this SOP, we outline what is the objective, what is the preparation we have to do, what do we do during the call, what questions do we ask, what things are really important to figure out, what do we do post-call, how do we debrief the team, how do we follow up with the client, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, we have a system, and inside the system, there's different things that we have to do every single time the same way. Or creating a Slack channel, you know, like every single time when we create a Slack channel, it's like, boom, this is how you do it, you know? So a lot of people are in their agency, they're just like super hyper obsessed in creating different SOPs, but they don't really know what they're creating the SOPs for, you know? And this like is a great example, like a mistake most agencies make. And I see this, it's like, they are there alone, maybe they're doing 20,000 a month, they have a few VAs, they have this and that there, and they have just like some random SOPs they have made, like whatever, maybe they have gotten them somewhere else. They have some cryptic loom recordings of like some processes they have tried to like systemize. Some of the processes inside their head, and they do like ad hoc random hires. Like, they're super busy and they're like, fuck, like I don't have time for this, so I'll just hire someone to help me out maybe. So then they go and they hire a fucking copywriter or something, I don't know. They go and they hire some random copywriter to do something, and then the copywriter like maybe helps them right now, but then like after a few weeks the copywriter is completely useless and they have to end up firing them, and it's a fucking big mess. Like, there's no organization in a lot of people's agencies where they try to systemize stuff. So pretty much the foundation of all systems is always the organizational chart. You have to know what are the actual communication what are the actual like relationships between these roles, like who is actually leading the company, who's reporting to who, what different major tasks there are, what kind of people there are in the business, etc. Because then when you know this, you know, okay, we can like really easily map out, like, okay, for marketing, we have 3 roles for marketing. We have someone who scrapes leads, we have someone who writes cold email copy, we have someone who makes sure that our emails get delivered. And then you can pretty much measure here, like really, like in an easy to track way, is like, hey, how do we know that this person is actually doing their job? Like, how do we actually measure their success? What are the KPIs they need to hit every single day that this department keeps running? And also, what tasks do they need to do every single day? And then you can build the processes and systems, etc. So you might have a lead generation process. So instead of having like an onboarding call process, you have a lead generation process. So first thing is buy infrastructure, second thing is scrape leads, third thing is like write copy, fourth thing is like review copy, fifth thing is fucking upload it to the email sender, sixth thing is launch campaigns, make sure settings are okay, seventh thing is inbox management, eighth thing is fucking review, whatever. And they're gonna assign that, okay, like these things are done by the lead scraping expert, and these things are done by the copywriter, and these things are done by the deliverability experts. And then for every single task, you're gonna have an SOP. So then when the lead scraping expert goes to scrape the lead list, they can look at the Google document like this. It's like, okay, how the fuck do I do this? You know? So super simple stuff. And if you don't have an organizational chart right now for your agency, but you're starting to hit that 10K, 15K month mark, and you feel that it's really necessary, I can promise you it is. I also have a video about this. I'm gonna also link it in the description. So after this video, go watch that before you do any systemization, you know? Otherwise it's gonna be really hard. You're gonna just end up in a situation where you're just hiring random people and you have no fucking idea what they should be doing and what their daily tasks are and what are their KPIs. So like systematizing anything is gonna be like fucking impossible. So pretty much what I wanna do is I wanna just quickly go over my own system on how to create systems. So this is like, you can go into a really, really deep rabbit hole here, but pretty much for creating systems, you should have a system for that. You know, like every single week, we look at all of our recurring tasks. Are they systemized? We improve the systems. Okay, how do we decide what systems we make? When we make a system, how do we make it? Blah, 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 you know, like there should be a system for making systems. It sounds crazy, but that is, because then you make sure that like every system that you create is always fucking the same, you know, or it's always done to the same level. Like a lot of people have this is like, there's like 3 different people making systems and SOPs in the business, and then they all look fucking different and they're all in the different places and they all have different elements. And it's like, once again, like in a short-term time frame, if you do that for a few months, it's gonna be fine. But if you do that for 3 years, you're gonna be absolutely fucked, you know, because it's gonna be such a big mess to operate. So this is my system for creating systems. It works hella well. So the first thing you want to do, and this is pretty much like the start of creating any systems, you first have to identify a clear core process, you know? Like you have to first figure out what the fuck should you systemize. And there's really, in my experience, there's no right or wrong answer for this, because of course you should systemize everything. But how I always like to look at it is, okay, what is right now taking a lot of like our resources? So what is costing a lot of money right now, or what is taking a lot of time, or what is taking a lot of brain capacity, or what is just super important piece of the business. And those are usually pretty good ways to start out with systemizing. If you right now have team members and they are doing something actively and there's no systems and SOPs created for them, like start with them, you know? But first thing, you want to identify a clear core process. And once again, it's like we can go into a deep rabbit hole. Every single one of these parts of the business, they can have its own SOP. So here we can have an SOP for identifying core processes. So it's like, who does it? When do we do it? Why do we do it? What are the resources? What is the definition of done? Step by step on how to do this. So every single fucking step here can have its own SOP, you know? Then when you have identified a clear core process, let's say it's lead scraping, let's say it's lead generation, let's say it's sales calls, whatever. What we want to do is we want to take that process and we want to document it using flowcharts and SOPs, you know? Like a lot of people, a big mistake they make is they're like, okay, I'm going to create a system right now for taking sales calls. And then they write up the system and they map it out, but they don't map it out based on how they're doing it right now, but they map it out based on how they think it should be done right now. And that creates a lot of inaccuracies because it's not the process that you use right now. And once again, for this, we can have an SOP on how to do this. COO, resources, boom, boom, how do we do it, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to go through every single SOP on this video, but pretty much it's just important that you understand the core process. First, you identify what you want to systemize, you know, what is important, what is urgent right now, what is taking a lot of your space. And then you go and you create, like you document the process. Like how does the process work? What happens first? What happens then? What happens then? What happens then? What happens then? And you can literally do this exact same process. Create a flow chart and create an SOP for these things. Then what you want to do, a lot of people miss this, is after you have created that, is complete the process using the documentation. So do the process yourself. Let's say you make a system for scraping leads. Like then take the fucking system and scrape leads exactly like the system shows, and see if you did something wrong. And a lot of cases you're gonna see like, this is not actually how I do it, this is not actually the smartest way. So actually test it yourself, see if it works. Then, are there opportunities to automate parts of the process? So you might, when you identify that, damn, this could actually be automated, this could actually be done with this tool, this could be done with this tool. If you identify those opportunities, create possible automation for the process, and then do the process again. Boom. Then, when you have gone through, you have identify the process, you documented it, you have tried it yourself, then you want to assign responsibilities for the process. So who does it? If it's just you, then it's obviously going to be just you who is there. But let's say you have an inbox manager, you have a cold email copywriter, you have a lead scraper, a domain guy, you have a fucking accountant, you have this and that. Okay, who has to do this? You know, don't just create the system and just fucking put it in your Google Drive and like call it a day. Like actually decide who does this every day, or how often it is, who does this every single week, and go up to them and tell them, hey, this is a system, this is a process for fucking scraping leads. I want you to do this every single time when a campaign has less than 200 new leads to contact. And you can find the information from here. Boom. Then set up KPIs and tracking. Okay, what are the actual KPIs for this? How do we know that this system is actually being done correctly? And how do we track it every single day? What I like to do, I learned this concept from an operations consultant that we hired last year. It's like he called it standard work checklist. So he created this checklist for every single position or every single person in the team, and like just outlined their like 3 to 5 biggest tasks every single day. And then they go every single day and they just check this list, you know? It's like, first is scrape, check if there's new leads that need to be scraped. Boom, check. If there are new leads to be scraped, scrape the leads. Boom, check. Tell team members that leads have been scraped. Boom, check. Whatever it might be, you know? Then when you have decided who has to do it and you've set up KPIs and tracking, run a test pilot of the process and collect feedback. So if you identified or if you decided that, hey, lead scraping specialist is going to do this SOP every single day, it's like, okay, boom, now do it. And sit in a Zoom call with them and look at their screen as they do it, you know? And just see if it's fucking good or bad, you know? And then you might see that they are struggling with some parts, something is not really working, or something's confusing or something is wrong. If that happens, refine process based on feedback and pilot run, you know? Like if they tell you, yeah, this was a little bit confusing, or maybe you see directly with your eyes that it was confusing, fucking redo it or change it and then run the pilot again. And after the pilot is going smoothly and like the actual system is working, you might also identify, does the team require training on the process? Like maybe they are struggling a lot with one part because they just don't have enough of skills to do it. So then you need to conduct training for the team and create necessary training resources. So you might do calls where you train them, or you might create whatever other training resources there are, and then you do it again. Then, super important, implement a continuous improvement loop. So it can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be quarterly, it can be yearly. But how do we make sure that we actually improve this part of the process every single day, you know, or every single week? So is there a feedback form that your team fills out? Do you hop on a meeting every single month to make sure all of these systems are up to par? Do they send you a message which something is fucked? But how do we make sure that it's getting improved and stays up to date every single day, you know? Do that. Add the documentation and training resources to a knowledge base. So every single company should have a knowledge base, pretty much a knowledge base where you can find all the SOPs, all the training, all the systems, all the fucking call times and all the team members and contracts and payment models and bonus models and clients. And you should have a fucking base like this, you know? You can use Notion. I have used Notion a lot. We used to use Notion for years. Now we use Airtable, which also works really fucking well. You can use ClickUp. You can use, I don't know, use whatever you want. You can use Google Drive, Google Docs. And the last thing is going to be delegate and empower. So motivate your team members to fucking own this process, you know? Like let's say there's a system for lead generation and you give the system, you give it to your marketing department, tell your head of marketing, hey, you are now fucking, you're like responsible for this part of the process right now. You can like make a big impact, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Maybe it's a financial incentive, maybe it's something else. But hey, fucking let's make sure that we keep improving this, adapting. If you have any ideas on how to make it better, give those ideas to me or just fucking implement them if you trust them a lot. And just make sure that someone is the owner of that system or owner of that process and empower them to make it better and tell them that, hey, it's okay to change it if you think it's going to be better. At least that's what I like to do. But yeah, that's pretty much how you fucking create systems. If you haven't created an org chart, make sure that you go watch that video as well from the description. Like and subscribe, whatever it might be. Take care.